It's midnight. I'm Anita and you're watching Nightline. The top stories. Umno Supreme Council to review appeal of suspended party members. And no more sponsorship in the fields of medicine, dentistry and pharmacy. Our headlining story. The Umno Supreme Council will review the appeal of suspended party members who remain loyal to Umno. Party President Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said the decision to lift their suspension, however, would depend on the thorough assessment and recommendation of the Umno Disciplinary Board.
Saya ingin menyebutkan bahawa banyak rakan-rakan yang telah digantung keahliannya yang telah mengemukakan surat rayuan untuk diterima balik sebagai ahli-ahli UMNO. Pendirian Majlis Tertinggi ialah bahawa lembaga disiplin akan membuat penelitian terhadap semua rayuan-rayuan yang dikemukakan. Majlis Tertinggi sangat terbuka untuk mengambil sebarang recommendation yang akan dibuat oleh lembaga disiplin.
He stated this at a press conference after the closing of the 2023 UMNO General Assembly at the World Trade Center, Kuala Lumpur on Saturday. Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid added the UMNO Supreme Council would then decide on whether to accept or reject the appeal based on the report from the party's disciplinary board. On Friday, former Pasir Salak Member of Parliament, Datuk Seri Tajuddin Abdul Rahman, called on UMNO to overturn his 6-year suspension so he can help with the party's campaign for the coming state elections. He said his first 2 appeals were rejected, while the latest, made in March, has yet to receive an answer, despite the fact he was still loyal to the party. Earlier, Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid said UMNO is always open to take back former party members and those who have been suspended or sacked. In his winding-up speech at the UMNO General Assembly, the party president said they, however, must show their loyalty and not criticise the party from the outside.
Dalam soal ini, kita ada perlembagaan dan peraturan dan insya-Allah kita harap rakan-rakan yang sama ada digantung ataupun yang lebih daripada itu, kita mahu lihat selepas tindakan itu sama ada mereka benar-benar orang parti atau memang benar-benar gunting dalam lipatan.
Back in January, UMNO suspended the membership of several party leaders, including Sembrong Division Chief Datuk Seri Hishamuddin Hussein and former party Youth Vice Chief Syahril Sufian Hamdan. Several others were sacked, namely former Rembau Division Deputy Chief Khairi Jamaluddin, former Ketereh Division Chief Tan Sri Anwar Musa and former Tanjung Karang Division Chief Tan Sri Nur Omar. On another matter, Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid, who is also Deputy Prime Minister, said he will put forth to the Cabinet the suggestion by UMNO delegates to reinstate the Federal Territories Ministry. He also said he had discussed the matter with Federal Territories UMNO Liaison Committee Chairman and Party Vice President Datuk Seri Johari Abdul Ghani, who is more than qualified to become a minister but deserves a portfolio bigger than the Federal Territories Ministry. On another matter, Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid said that the Prime Minister has agreed in principle to the recommendation by UMNO to establish the Gig Economy Commission Malaysia, SEGIM. SEGIM aims to regulate the ecosystem of the gig industry and take care of the welfare of the entire economic chain, starting from service providers to suppliers and up to workers and consumers.
Saya sebutkan bahawa sebanyak 1.12 juta yang terlibat di dalam industri ini. Dan peningkatannya sebanyak 23% setiap tahun.
In his policy speech on Friday, Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid said the sector was growing rapidly where more than 80% of gig economy users comprised young people. He added the current digital evolution that dominates Malaysia's digital economy market has reached multi-billion transactions, reaching 52.4 billion ringgit in 2020. In addition, Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid also said the government has agreed to introduce a technical and vocational education and training or TVET program, especially for women. It would be implemented in collaboration with University Technical Malaysia Melaka and the RISDA-owned College University Agroscience Malaysia. Meanwhile, UMNO Deputy President Datuk Seri Muhammad Hassan, in his winding-up speech, reminded the party that it has only 6 weeks left to prepare and strengthen its election machinery for the 6 upcoming state polls. This as he expects the state elections involving Kelantan, Terengganu, Kedah, Pulau Pinang, Selangor and Negeri Sembilan to be held between the end of July and August.
Rata-rata semua 6 negeri ini akan membubarkan dewannya pada hujung bulan. Di dalam Akta Suruhanjaya Pilihan Raya ada 60 hari. Tetapi SPR tidak akan sampai ke hujung 60 hari.
UMNO Vice President Datuk Seri Johari Abdul Ghani also echoed the call, urging the party's machinery to throw their weight behind potential party candidates to ensure UMNO's victory in the upcoming state elections. He also said the potential candidates must be identified as soon as possible so that they can be groomed well before the polls and be given the opportunity to work closely with the party's grassroots members.
Kalau kita nak menang, every one of us mesti tanamkan dalam jiwa kita, iaitu satu mentaliti kita panggil winning mentality. Mentality untuk menang. Jadi nak mentality untuk menang ni tuan-tuan, pertama kita kena berfikir macam orang nak menang. Yang kedua, kita mesti bercakap macam orang nak menang.
UMNO Vice President Datuk Seri Muhammad Khalid Nordin, in his winding-up speech, also pointed out that UMNO's dismal performance in the 15th general election, GE15, showed that the party was at its lowest point. He added that the best remedy for the party now is unity amongst its members.
Parti yang tercedera tidak perlu kepada pecah belah. Tidak perlu terus diporak-perandakan. Tetapi ia memerlukan hati-hati yang bertemu, bekerja dan bersatu kerana bangsa dan tanah air yang sangat kita kasihi.
Another party vice president, Datuk Seri Wan Rosdi Wan Ismail, said that UMNO must find the answers as to why staunch supporters and grassroots members did not vote for the party in GE15. He also said that he agreed to a proposal brought up during the General Assembly for the party to set up its own politics school to produce credible future leaders and members who are loyal to UMNO.
Lebih ramai orang parti yang setia dan taat kepada perjuangan parti. Saya juga yakin sekolah politik ini mampu melahirkan generasi pewaris yang berupaya mengembalikan kepercayaan rakyat kepada UMNO.
The Public Service Department, JPA, will no longer offer sponsorship in the fields of medicine, dentistry and pharmacy following the excess in supply of medical officers from 2026 to 2030. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Sabah, Sarawak Affairs and Special Functions, Dato' Armizan Muhammad Ali, said the supply of medical officers in 2021 was recorded at 72,812 compared to the demand of 70,721. Through a written answer posted on the Dewan Rakyat portal, he said the supply of dental officers and pharmacy officers will meet its demands respectively in 2025 and 2029. He said students under JPA will still be sponsored until 2027. Dato' Armizan said, according to the 2022 Health Indicator Report, the ratio of the total medical workforce required throughout the country to the total population until December 2021 is 1 to 420, and it is expected that a ratio of 1 to 400 will be achieved in 2025. Malaysians have been reminded not to be duped into believing the narrative of racial sentiment being played up by failed leaders who question every form of government assistance for non-Malays. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said after he began administrating the country in November last year, he had to arrange the economic framework to suit the country's current situation, which was beset by various problems.
Negara kita ini sekarang pertarungan yang dikatakan clash paling besar ialah membangkit sentimen seolah-olah orang Melayu hilang kuasa, orang Melayu jadi miskin, dan Anwar sebagai Perdana Menteri ini hanya nak jaga China dan India. Itu naratif di bawah.
Datuk Seri Anwar said this in his speech at the Indian Community Education Development and Future Master Plan Programme at the Shah Alam Convention Centre in Selangor on Saturday. He also urged the leaders of the Indian community in Malaysia to unite in a single determination, regardless of their political differences, pointing out that leaders would have varying political views and policies and might sometimes take a hard stance, but coming together would help hasten government efforts. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister said the government has agreed to allocate 30 million ringgit for the restoration works of facilities in Sekolah Jenis Kebangsaan Tamil, SJKT, as well as other administrative matters. A total of 42.4 million ringgit will be allocated to aid Indian youth from the B40 group in pursuing their studies at higher education institutions in the country. The government's effort to continue the subsidies and price control for chicken and eggs proves that the proactive measures taken are timely to help the people. Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Datuk Seri Salahuddin Ayub said although the government has to bear the subsidy cost of 200 million ringgit a month, it needs to be done to ensure that the people's welfare continues to be protected.
Jadi semalam kerajaan tidak keberatan untuk menyambung terus pemberian subsidi itu demi untuk kita memastikan rakyat dapat membeli harga ayam dan telur dengan harga yang dikawal oleh kerajaan, dan juga kita faham rakyat sedang masih lagi berdepan dengan kos sara hidup.
Datuk Seri Salahuddin said this to the media after launching the Kelantan Level Retail Sector Digitalisation Initiative, Ready and Menu Rahmah at Pasar Siti Khadijah in Kota Baru, Kelantan on Saturday. On Friday, the government announced that the provision of subsidies and price control over chicken and eggs would continue from July 1st. The Agriculture and Food Security Ministry, as well as the Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Ministry, had said in a joint statement that the decision was made after taking into account all aspects, including the sustainability of the poultry industry. Meanwhile, the government has given its assurance that the supply of sugar nationwide will be sufficient for Hari Raya Aidil Adha. Datuk Seri Salahuddin said to prevent the hoarding of profiteering of sugar, the ministry has launched Op Manis 2.0, which would go on until June 30th.
Kita menjadi lebih proaktif dan agresif untuk beberapa bulan ini bagi memastikan keberadaan gula rakyat itu, iaitu gula manis, gula bertapis, kasar dan halus itu mesti berada di pasaran minimum 42,000 tan sebulan.
He added there shouldn't be a problem if anyone wants to sell premium sugar, but they must ensure that the supply of subsidised sugar is sufficient. At the event, Datuk Seri Salahuddin also said that the government is targeting some 30,000 traders nationwide to be registered under the Ready programme by the end of this year. So far, a total of 12,595 traders have registered under the programme. We're going for a short break, but when we return, 4 children found alive in jungle weeks after plane crash. Do stay with us. news on the foreign front. Old rifts resurfaced in Britain's ruling Conservative Party on Saturday, following former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's abrupt resignation from Parliament, while the opposition Labour Party sensed opportunity ahead of a general election next year. In his resignation statement, Johnson railed against the inquiry, examining whether he misled the House of Commons about the gatherings. He had also accused lawmakers on the committee investigating him of acting like a kangaroo court and being determined to end his political career after receiving a confidential letter from the committee. Johnson's departure from Parliament, alongside his ally Nadine Dorries, who also resigned on Friday, triggered by-elections for two Conservative-held constituencies that Rishi Sunak must now defend. The 58-year-old quit his 22-year political career late in protest against an investigation by lawmakers into his conduct as Prime Minister during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, when lockdown-breaking parties were held in Downing Street. In other news, at least 5 workers have been killed in Turkey after an explosion at a rocket and explosives plant caused a building to collapse on Saturday in Ankara. The explosion occurred at about 8:45 a.m. local time at the compound of the MKE rocket and explosives factory, which caused shop and house windows in surrounding areas to shatter by the force of the blast. Governor Vasip Zain said the cause of the explosion was not immediately known, but was likely to have been caused by a chemical reaction during the production of dynamite. He added that several ambulances and firefighters have been sent to the factory and that prosecutors have launched a formal investigation into the accident. It was reported that the said factory produces missiles for the Turkish Armed Forces and the Turkish Ministry of Internal Affairs. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro announced on Friday that 4 missing children from an indigenous community in Colombia have been found alive in the country's south more than 5 weeks after the plane they were traveling in crashed in thick jungle. It was reported that the siblings were rescued by the military near the border between Colombia's Caqueta and Guaviare provinces, close to where the small plane had crashed. Following the rescue, the children have been flown to the nation's capital, Bogota, where ambulances have taken them to hospital for further medical treatment. The 4 siblings, aged 13, 9, 4, as well as a now 12-month-old baby, survived the impact, while 3 adults, including the pilot and the children's mother, died as a result of the crash. The plane, a Cessna 206, was carrying 7 people on a Araraquara in Amazonas province and San Jose del Guaviare, a city in Guaviare province, when it issued a Mayday alert due to engine failure in the early hours of May 1st. tennis, the 2023 French Open. Casper Ruud booked his place in the French Open with a straight sets win over Alexander Zverev in the second semi-final. The Norwegian defeated the German 22nd seed 6-3, 6-4, 6-love in a battle of big hitters to set up a showdown with 22-time Grand Slam champion Novak Djokovic. The players exchanged breaks early in the opening set, but Ruud pushed on from there to continue and control the rallies from behind the baseline to frustrate an error-prone Zverev in the next set, before storming into a third Grand Slam final in his last 5 events, going back to Roland Garros 2022. Earlier, Djokovic used every bit of his experience, relentlessness and fitness to beat a cramping Carlos Alcaraz 6-3, 5-7, 6-1, 6-1 to move one win away from a record 23rd Grand Slam title. World number 1 Alcaraz had just levelled the contest when disaster struck as he limped to his bench holding his right leg at 1-1 in the third set. From there, the 36-year-old Serb was able to cruise to the finish against the 20-year-old Spaniard, making for the widest age gap in a men's Grand Slam semi-final since 1991.
Ayo semarakkan sokongan anda untuk Harimau Malaya. Siri Persahabatan Antarabangsa. Secara langsung hanya di TV9 dan Astro saluran 149.
Coming up after the break, police nab men who threw violent fit after being called Bachi. Don't go away. Welcome back. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Rayayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah and Raja Permaisuri Agong Tunku Azizah Aminah Maimunah Iskandariah attended the Trooping the Colours ceremony on Saturday morning. The ceremony was held at Dataran Pahlawan Negara in Putrajaya in conjunction with the King's official birthday. The arrival of the royal couple at the venue at 8:30 a.m. was greeted with the national anthem and a 21-gun salute by the 41st Ceremonial Battery of the Royal Artillery Regiment. At the same time, 5 Malaysian Armed Forces MAF aircraft bearing the Jalur Gemilang national flag, as well as the flags of the MAF, Royal Malaysian Air Force RMAF, Royal Malaysian Navy RMN, and Army performed a flypast overhead. Al-Sultan Abdullah then inspected a guard of honour mounted by 57 officers and 862 personnel from the 3 MAF wings. The MAF Central Band then led the Trooping the Colours of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong in slow and quick march tempo. 5 colours were paraded at the ceremony, namely those of the Royal Malay Regiment, Royal Ranger Regiment, Royal Armoured Corps, RMN and RMAF. Trooping the Colours is a demonstration of respect, honour and ceremonial pledge of allegiance by the 3 services of the armed forces to the King and country. The 1-hour ceremony ended with 3 hails of Daulat Tuanku by the Guard of Honour, followed by a recitation of prayers. Also present were Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, his wife Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Azizah Wan Ismail, Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Fadilah Yusof and Defence Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Hassan. Over in Selangor, a man who flew into a rage after being called Bachi at a restaurant in Putra Heights near Subang Jaya, as seen in a viral video, has been remanded for 4 days until Tuesday. Subang Jaya Police Chief ACP Wan Azlan Wan Mamat said the 50-year-old unemployed man was detained at a self-service laundrette in Batu Caves, Gombak on Saturday. Checks found that the suspect had a criminal record involving cheating, obstructing a civil servant from discharging his duties and making threats. In the video, a restaurant employee who was handing food and hot drinks to the suspect when he suddenly became enraged after his request to be called Abang or Baby instead of Bachi was ignored. The man then started to act aggressively and threw the food and drink, which hit a 4-year-old child. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for criminal intimidation and use of criminal force. The mother of the 22-year-old Malaysian woman missing in Thailand, Angie Chong Sum Ye, said she could not help but feel worried that the latter had become a victim of human trafficking and job syndicate. 50-year-old Chi Choi Won said she started to believe Angie had been trapped in the syndicate after meeting the police at Mai Sai district in Chiang Rai province last Wednesday. Choi Won said her daughter, who goes by Angie, had contacted her via the WhatsApp messaging app and later called her on Friday night. During the conversation, Angie said that she was in Thailand but did not share any other details. Speaking during a press conference conducted at Johor DAP headquarters at Taman Tropika on Saturday, Choi Won said that her daughter sounded depressed and even asked for her mother to withdraw the police report lodged on her disappearance before ending the call. Efforts to call Angie back also proved futile, while messages on WhatsApp went unread.
Saya tanya dia pun tak ada. Saya cakap, you betul sekarang you di mana? You kasih mak tahu saja. Saya cakap, saya di Binjai aja. Border? Border saja dia cakap. Saya betul you di border atau di mana? Saya mau you cakap. You boleh kasih saya handphone atau alamat. Saya boleh pergi cari, tengok you kerja macam mana. Tapi dia tak mau cakap sudah.
Police in Chiang Rai in the meantime informed that the victim had likely gone to Myanmar. On June 7th, the police confirmed that they received a report on the recent disappearance of a Malaysian woman in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and was cooperating with the Thai police on the probe. As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a look as staff at the Museum of Evolution at the Knuthenborg Safari Park in Denmark painstakingly pieced together the huge skull of a Torosaurus, preparing it for its official unveiling on Tuesday. With that, I'm Anita. Thank you for joining us and be well, Malaysia.